What's good, everyone? This your main correspondent, Alan Taylor, and I'm back in the broadcast room. And this is where we at now. So, yes, the Reverend Jesse Jackson has passed away. And, this is the thing here. I definitely, understand and I respect everything that happened in the civil rights movement. And it gave us the leeway as black people in America, black Americans, to be able to live the lives that we live now and enjoy things the way that we enjoy them now and be able to succeed and provide for our families and stuff like that. It just is what it is here, people. And also too, some of these, illegals that are coming over here to be able to make a way for themselves. But my thing of this is I want to present this here because, Jesse Jackson was a very critical part of the civil rights movement. Shout out to all those people that were a part of the civil rights movement for me to be able to do things that I'm doing today and things like that as a black American man. And yeah, we're going to go here now. We're going to see and celebrate Jesse Jackson's life. Shout out to him. Mad love to his family, this is where we at right now. Let's go here now.
Because ABC News has confirmed Reverend Jesse Jackson has died.
For more than 5 decades, he stood as a towering figure of the civil rights movement, rising to prominence in the 1960s alongside Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a vocal champion fighting for desegregation and equality for Black Americans and marginalized communities, a fierce advocate for voting rights.
Reverend Jackson was at the Lorraine Motel in Memphis the night Dr. King was assassinated. He was standing in the courtyard and was among the first to reach him after that fatal shot was fired.
He founded Operation Push, dedicated to improving the economic status of African Americans and disadvantaged groups. A trailblazer and 2-time presidential candidate, he ran for the Democratic nomination in 1984 and 1988. His Rainbow Coalition was designed to form a diverse alliance of African Americans, Latinos, Asian Americans, Native Americans, women, and the LGBTQ community.
Reverend Jackson was visibly moved to tears when President Obama was first elected in 2008. The realization of his lifelong work and unparalleled victory of the civil rights movement.
His life was dedicated to civil rights during some of America's most turbulent times, a legacy of steadfast activism, giving a voice to millions and helping reshape the American landscape. Here's ABC's Pierre Thomas with a look back at Jackson's life.
All of his life, the Reverend Jesse Jackson preaching, exhorting, demanding justice in a quest to help his people and nation overcome.
We ain't the bottom, we the foundation.
Always marching, civil rights nonviolent soldier. There he was, shoulder to shoulder with Martin Luther King Jr. after witnessing the beatings of Bloody Sunday on television. Jackson eventually became one of the top lieutenants in the critical Southern Christian Leadership Conference, which challenged the Jim Crow South's withering oppression. A witness to history, he was there on that fateful April evening when King was struck down by an assassin's bullet.
I tried to feel his head, and I asked him, I said, Dr. King, do you hear me? Dr. King, do you hear me? And he didn't say anything.
After a leadership struggle with King's successor, Reverend Ralph Abernathy, Jackson split from the SCLC and formed a new organization, People United to Save Humanity, PUSH.
Beautiful.
After Dr. King, I don't think anyone captured the spirit of America like Reverend Jackson, and he took the movement north. I think Jesse Jackson was the link from that generation of King and them all the way to my generation, and then the generation behind me.
The first wave of the civil rights movement had succeeded in breaking down significant barriers, but Jackson's primary focus was on economic empowerment.
We know that we are worthy of respect and protection, but nobody really knows our name, and so we're really still struggling.
He broke boundaries in politics, twice running for president, first in 1984 under the banner of a Rainbow Coalition.
Our flag is red, white, and blue, but our nation is rainbow. Red, yellow, brown, black, and white. We're all precious in God's sight.
In 1988, he was for a time the Democratic Party's frontrunner for the presidential nomination, winning 11 primaries and caucuses before eventually losing the nomination to Massachusetts Governor Michael Dukakis.
I'd rather go down in the stirring fight than drowse to death at the sheltered shore.
Jackson also took on.
So yeah, this is what we at here. And I'm gonna speak for a second here. The thing of this is Jesse fought for, voting rights and everything that we needed as Black Americans in this country. And yes, it would, and for me to, see all these things in society nowadays where they're trying to take away, voter ID and all that type of stuff. That's what he was fighting for. The right to have your ID to vote, all this type of stuff, that's what he was fighting for. And I also get the fact of what he thought the symbolism was of when Obama was elected. But at the same time, though, too, as most Black Americans know, Obama really never did do anything for us collectively as Black people while he had those 8 years in office. And I think that it was a shame. I don't know what Jesse thought about it. I'm not going to speak on what he may have thought, may not have thought. That's, it is what it is. But from my perspective, I thought that it was a shame that the whole time that the Obama guy was in office and he, ran on actual, Black votes and stuff like that. And, he really did that. Like, there's no escaping these facts here. There's no escaping these facts. If it wasn't for Black people, he never would have got in office. Let's just keep this honest. And the entire time, he really never did anything to, help Black people or move the needle any closer to what the civil rights movement was actually standing for, whether we like the truth or not. I know we don't in most cases, but it's just the truth. He never really did anything. And I think that Obama was overall a whole disappointment to what the civil rights movement really stood for Black Americans and things like that. And, I think he, was just, it just was a shame. It just was a shame. Let's keep going here. You know what I'm saying? Mad love to Jesse. R.I.P. Real talk.
The role of freelance international negotiator, meeting with some of the world's most brutal tyrants.
Overseas, the American Black activist Jesse Jackson has become an intermediary in the Middle East.
In 1984, he met with Syria's Hafez al-Assad.
Goodman and the Reverend Jackson arrived at Andrews Air Force Base,
securing the release of downed American naval officer Lieutenant Robert Goodman. In 1990, he held talks with Saddam Hussein to free foreign nationals being held in Iraq as human shields. And in 1999, he went behind enemy lines again to meet with Slobodan Milosevic to negotiate the return of 3 American prisoners of war. At times, he was a spiritual advisor, counseling President Clinton in his darkest hour, facing impeachment over a sex scandal. But Jackson had his own moments where he fell far short of what he had championed. In the mid-1980s, facing controversy for allegedly making a highly offensive remark about the Jewish community.
I deny, and I do not recall ever making such a statement in any context that would be remotely construed as being either anti-Semitic or anti-Israel. However innocent and unintended, it was insensitive and wrong.
And as an ordained minister, having to admit in 2001, he had fathered a child after an affair with a former staffer. Although somewhat diminished, Jackson leaned in on his faith of forgiveness and redemption and kept fighting, keeping his eyes on the prize. He saw one of his hopes realized on election night in 2008 in Chicago's Grant Park.
America, I have never been more hopeful than I am tonight that we will get there.
He wept as President-elect Barack Obama delivered his victory speech. In recent years, the effects of age and a long illness had slowed his gait, but not his spirit. After the conviction of Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin for the killing of George Floyd, Jackson made it a point to be there in Minneapolis. Through it all, Jackson's faith and hope in what America could be endured.
And that's where we at, people. You know, yeah, Jesse Jackson was definitely one of our well-respected civil rights leaders throughout all the controversy, stuff like that. You know, and same time though, too, you know, we're not supposed to idolize people and stuff like that. He went through his own struggles as a man and things like that. You clearly heard that, you know, outside kids, stuff like that. You know, yeah, he went through his struggles as a man. And, you know, just like any human. But for the fact of what he stood for and what he tried to do for Black Americans was the utmost thing, and that definitely needs the most respect that we can possibly give him. And yeah, this is where we at here, man. Shout out to Jesse Jackson. Mad love to his family. Hopefully in this trying time they are able to come together and do the things that they need to do as a family and mourn the way that they need to. Yeah, mad love, you know what I'm saying? And this is where we at here. R.I.P. Jesse Jackson. It is what it is, though. Shout out to all my subscribers. Mad love to y'all. If you're new to the channel, please hit that like, share, subscribe button. Make sure you ring that bell to be notified whenever I decide to post things. And like I always say,
and that, my friends, is the bottom line.
That, my friends, is the bottom line.